I guess I started playing guitar in 1967 or 68, and I've been playing for a while. And in 1979, I had a gig working at Disneyland theme park in California, and half the day was supposed to be playing bluegrass mandolin, and the other half the day was playing Dixieland clarinet. And I didn't know either one of those things. I don't really anything about them, but I needed a job, so I kind of like learned on the gig, you know. And during that time, I got introduced to a lot of people that were really into traditional jazz and Dixieland and stuff. One of them being Howard Alden, who was a banjo player at that point. He wasn't even a guitar player yet. And a couple other banjo players too, one named Doug Maddox. And they did such amazing stuff on the banjo, you know, stuff I'd never seen before. And I asked him, is there somebody from that time period that played guitar? You know, really cool stuff like that. And everybody said, oh, Django. And everybody would say Django's name with such reverence, you know? So I was like, I gotta go check this guy out. So I found my first album that I bought was this kind of like weird outtakes of him like actually before his accident, and him playing a banjo guitar with an accordion player and a slide whistle. And so it was like, I thought, well, this, I don't know. It wasn't what I expected. And then the next one I found was actually the classic Quintet of the Hot Club of France with Stephen Grappelli doing Limehouse Blues and After You've Gone and Eyes of Muggin and all of that great stuff, and I just couldn't believe it. You know, it was just sounded fantastic, and he made an acoustic guitar sound as exciting as an electric guitar, or even more. And to hear, you know, all the legend that he had just played all that stuff with two fingers as well was phenomenal. So immediately I tried to start learning it. And I think I had an Epiphone archtop guitar, which was, you know, kind of a lower line one. It was not too bad, but it was really, really hard to play this kind of music on. No sustain, just plunk, plunk. But, and there was no lesson books or anything like that, you know, no videos or really anything. So it's just listen to it and see if you can pick up. And living in California too, I felt like really far away from, you know, obviously from France and in Europe and the players that were still playing this music over there. So I was just kind of learned in a vacuum, really. A couple of my friends, you know, we tried to learn stuff, and you know, we started playing it pretty much right away as much as possible, and that's what I always played for my own enjoyment, you know, all the time that I was with Desert Rose Band or with the Helicasters or with Elton John. You know, if I was going to sit around and jam with my friends, I would play that style of music. And I started going to the Django Reinhardt Festival in Samoa, in France, and that's, in fact, that's the first time that I met Kevin's brother, Robin Nolan, was at one of those festivals back in the early 90s, I think. And that was a real eye-opener, because over there, you know, there's a lot of people that play this style. Right. And it's not, I mean, it's still kind of underground, but not like over here, right, you know. Right. And I started being able to watch them play and just learn some of the techniques. And, you know, for me, I couldn't completely change my style of playing because I've been playing so long, but I was able to incorporate a lot of those techniques and ideas. I have to say, like, probably the highlight of my career so far is playing at that festival. In 2005, I played the headline spot on Saturday night at that festival, and that was completely nerve-wracking, but really, really exciting. In fact, I started getting into David Grisman and the acoustic music before I heard Django. I was working actually I was at the Aspen Music Festival, a scholarship as a jazz bass player, and they paid for my room and board, but nothing else. So it's like, if I wanted to eat, I had to figure out a way to make some money, you know. So I answered an ad, said wanted jazz bass player for immediate gigs. I was like, yeah, that sounds good. So I answered the ad, and it was actually, there were guys that were playing David Grisman's first album. Oh, wow. And this was like 1978, and it was a mandolin player and a guitar player and a violin player. It wasn't really jazz, it was like dog music. Exactly. And I was like, well, this stuff is cool. You know, I kind of like that, and I love the sound of the mandolin, so it made me want to learn the mandolin. And then when I got back to California, I got that offer for that job at Disneyland, and they said, you know, if you could play mandolin and clarinet. And I was like, I couldn't play mandolin, but I wanted to learn. So I took the gig. And so I had heard minor swing for that. In fact, the first time that I saw Stephen Grappelli was with Grisman. He was touring with Grisman in like 1980. And Martin Taylor was playing. And I was playing some bluegrass too. And Clarence White was one of my favorite acoustic players. And in all his interviews, he would always mention Django as a big influence on him, you know, as well as Doc Watson and stuff like that. So, and then Tony Rice was heavily influenced by Clarence White, you know. So, and I, you know, was hearing Tony with David Grisman's band, and I liked the, you know, I liked, you know, Doc Watson, and those guys were great. But then to hear Django from that context, because those guys didn't play like even like super intense like Django did. So I loved it. It was like it was that intensity, but on an acoustic guitar.
Right. I know the vibrato and stuff. It's
yeah.
And picking it with the right hand. Yeah, it's
yeah. And to me, it showed me a whole different way to approach the guitar. I didn't know, you know, to play so back here, you know, as opposed to that just doesn't sound good. You know, and to really attack it, those kind of tremolos and things like that, right. And just playing with a lot of fire. And I think most players of every other style, their hand is, you know, a lot further away from the bridge. But for this stuff, you're really close to the bridge. You know, it makes it speak and gives a lot of personality and
right, a lot of bite.
Yeah, and actually even more body too. You know, because you get up there and the strings just rattle out and you don't get any body sound. So the new CD is called Ultra Spontan, and that's a word from the Luxembourgish language, which means very spontaneous. And it's on this CD. I basically tried to do more to kind of broaden the whole palette and include a lot of other influences: gypsy music from Romania, Spanish gypsy music, which is basically flamenco. There's a little bit of funk mixed in there, Latin. In fact, there's not a lot of even traditional kind of swing, although Beryl Davis is a guest on one song, who is a singer that actually recorded with Django back in London in 1938. And so we've got her as a guest on one song, and that one's pretty traditional. But, you know, I love the traditional style, but I also feel like in order for a genre of music to keep progressing, it needs new songs and, you know, new ideas. So that's what I incorporated in the CD. This is a song called El Camino del Che, and it's from my CD Ultra Spontan. It was inspired by a film called Motorcycle Diaries, and this has a lot of different techniques in it that are pretty cool, right-hand techniques. So we'll play like the head and maybe a solo section of it, and then break it down a little bit and show a few of the techniques. It starts out with a little bit of a chord riff, and it's A minor to B7 to E, and I don't really play an E full E chord, just kind of playing the low E, you know. And then the chord progression of the song is just pretty simple. It's almost the same chord progression as Dark Eyes, a famous gypsy song, but it's E7, A minor, E7 again, A minor, F, E, and then
what was the last three chords at the end?
it's A minor, B7, E7.
Major E7. Okay.
Yeah, so it's same kind of like the intro figure. A lot of times I'll write songs because I want to practice a particular technique, and so this is like. And that's the opening melody. So that adheres to that technique of so whenever I change strings, I'm doing another downstroke.
So was the melody in a part born of working on that technique or that technique in mind?
Kind of. I mean, I think I probably wrote it without doing that picking. That's just regular picking, but when I put that picking style in there, it just emphasizes it really nicely.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and the same second phrase is. And actually probably see. And so, you know, you end up even on the last. And it's just basically what. All groups of three. You know, and so that practices that. And then the rest of the melodies. And then this, like, again, has a lot of that. Sorry. And that's a strange lick because it has to the bottom one has to start with an up in order to work it out. And it ends with an up too, which is kind of a strange thing.